Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and I have located my hat. I don't know when I'm going to upload these videos, in what order, but basically I just recorded an entire Victober video without this hat. And then, as I finished it, I was like, I think I know where my hat is. And so, I went and I found it. And I considered re-recording the entire video, but then decided that I could not be bothered with that. So instead, you're going to have one video where I've got incredibly awful greasy hair that I was deciding to allow to rest from being blow dried and fiddled with. And then you're going to have two more where I'm in an act. And isn't that just grand? So this is the 112th Woolgathering video, and I haven't made it in time because I wanted to upload it yesterday, but it's a fantastic reason that I want to share with you because I've shared it on every single other social media platform that I have, and that is that the final Doris book, Royally Doris, is complete. Yesterday, at whatever time it was in the day, I think it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I finished the book. So, what happened? What gave me this sudden surge of energy? Well, basically, I took a holiday off work in September, and my intention was to finish writing this book during that, and I didn't. And I always knew that I had this holiday coming up, and I definitely wanted the book finished before November. There was just something in my head that was saying it needs to be done now. And so I finished work this Monday just gone. I've been doing overtime throughout the month up until that point, and I knew that I was going to be off until this coming Friday, which will be the 29th. Monday I was in work. Tuesday, I was trying to catch up on my Victober reading because I had been reading books that weren't to do with Victorian literature before that. Wednesday, I had the day free. Again, I was reading. I was doing a bit of writing as well, but I went out for drinks with the charity shop. Thursday, I got a bit of writing done in the morning. Oh, I should say on Wednesday, I was also editing and uploading the video for my BookTube Prize reviews and rankings video, which I wanted to get out because I'd recorded it ages ago. Thursday, the writers group, and afterwards I was talking to Joy because we'd done this read around. I read a bit of the book, and Joy said to me about finishing it, and I said, well, I've taken this week off work in order to finish it, but I want to finish it before the end of the month. And she said to me, well, you've got to finish it by next Thursday, otherwise you'll lose all credibility. Now, I don't think I have any credibility anyway, and I know she was only joking, but it proved a good thing to say to me. I didn't write on Thursday night. I watched RuPaul's Drag Race UK, which I still don't know why I'm doing, but I'll get into that in a moment. And on Friday morning, I woke up and I cleared off the table, and at 10 o'clock, I started writing. I put a tweet out saying that if I didn't finish this book this weekend, then I was selling Doris and buying a rabbit instead. Lilo and Stitch, favourite Disney film. Even though there have been others afterwards, nothing's ever surpassed that. Could explain why. Can't be arsed doing it right now. Still, on Thursday, I said to Joy that I had 6,000 words left to write and then I would be done with the book. Well, I was wrong, because I wrote 6,000 words on Friday. I worked all day on that book and it still wasn't finished. And there always comes a point when I'm writing these books when I just feel like I can't write anymore that day. I took myself out. I took Sally for a walk down the nearby towpath. I don't know where I'm including that footage. I think I'm including some towpath footage in my Victober catch-up video. So go over there to see some pictures of the towpath I got. Same sort of thing again. Saturday, I got up and I went straight down to my computer, switched it on, and started work again. And I was chronicling the music I was listening to, and this always goes back to when I finished my young adult novel when I was about 18 or 19, I remember finishing that to a particularly sad song from Paloma Faith's second album. I don't even think I still have the album. Let's go in the drawer. We have the drawer of CDs right here. But I do think that I actually donated that one to the charity shop. Yeah, so that album's now been donated, and I can't even remember what the song was. The final scene of this young adult novel was somewhat poignant, and it seemed apt that I should finish writing that book to that sad song. And that just happened completely coincidentally. So yesterday morning, I started by listening to Delta, which was Delta Goodrum's third album from 2007. Then I went on to something else. I know that I listened to Alaska Thunderfuck's album Anus at some point, but I don't think that was yesterday. We listened to a lot of music yesterday, basically. Oh, Ivy Levan. We listened to her entire album No Good. I think it took about 4 or 5 albums worth yesterday of writing. And again, we got 6,000 words. And I'd written everything down for my plan finally on an A4 sheet of paper, and I was just ticking stuff off as I went, and I wrote that scene. And yesterday, I only had this 1 page of planning left to write, and it came to this 6,000 words. And I was writing this final scene. Now, what I'll admit here is that I have struggled with where this story should end the entire time writing. With the first Doris book, I thought it ended where I'd ended it, and my friend said to me, who was editing it for me, you need something to properly finish this book off. It doesn't feel like a final end. And with Doris 2, I wanted to end it with them at home. And every book has ended with the two of them together, Doris and Harold, having a conversation. And I have written a scene at the end where it's just Doris and Harold having a conversation. But I didn't like it, so I removed it. I'll admit that I wrote it prior to actually working on the final chapter. It came into my head one day and I wrote it. But the final scene, as I was writing it, and this hasn't happened in a while, so it felt particularly good to me. I don't know whether it's because I know this is the end of me ever writing Doris again. I know that it's not the end of me working on this book. I still have to go through it and edit it myself before I send it off to beta readers, before I send it off to the editor. And yeah, I was getting somewhat emotional when I was writing a certain part of this final scene, and then this kind of emotion just stuck with me until I'd finished it. And I walked away from my computer after finishing this scene. Like, that felt like the end. And I went and I found this scene that I couldn't find, that I'd written, where it was just the two of them at home. And I was reading it and I thought, this no longer seems to fit. It just, it didn't gel. It didn't work for me. The way that I had ended the book and the way it's ended now just felt complete. And I know there's this whole thing, isn't there, of start late, finish early. And this is the longest book I have ever written. This is 110,257 words. Put it into perspective for you. The first Doris book is only 50,000 words. The second is 70,000. The third is only 30,000 because it's a novella. Even Alice Valentine, An Heir to Murder, only makes it to 60-something thousand words. So it makes sense that this book has taken me so long to write, because it is so long. I checked and it has been 19 months of work. I started this on the 25th of February 2020, and I am finishing it on the 23rd of October 2021. And I was looking back over it. I know I've got this change to make to the first part, but I looked at it this morning. I was like, oh, child's play, really, because it's not so much that writing isn't there. The pieces are there, they're just in the wrong order. So I just have to go and rejig a few bits, maybe change the continuity with a few lines, but otherwise it's easy in comparison to the rest of this novel. And I think back over it, and I think back to when I first started writing Doris, which was 10 years ago. I started Doris at the age of 19 and I'm now 29. And I didn't plan on turning it into a novel until 2013. Didn't really do anything with it. 2014, from October 2014 to February 2015, I wrote the first Doris book. And then I wrote the second from 2016 to 2017. And so it's been a long time coming, really. You know, I took that break to write the children's book and to write Alice. And I think that it really helped. When I started and I decided how I was going to write these books, I always knew that I wanted the narrative style to progress, and I wanted the final book to read more like a novel, but told in Harold's voice. And certain friends of mine have said that I've just written novels and not even noticed it, because I've always called them books of monologues. But this, it feels, to me, more mature, because I do discuss more mature topics. But I always knew I wanted to talk about them for a very specific reason. I had an idea for a novel years and years ago. And whilst working on this novel, I realised, actually, you have all of the characters in place with Doris. And I knew what I wanted the final Doris book to be about. But I also recognised that this is the final book. We need to change things up a bit. Like, I didn't want to give you the same book, but I didn't want, as a writer, to be continuously working on the same book. I wanted to challenge myself, and my lord, have I found this book challenging. It is the most challenging thing I have ever written. It has had me wanting to scream at walls at times. In February or March, when I was writing a particular chapter that ended up being 20,000 words, that took its toll on me completely emotionally. And it wasn't that I was trying to insert myself into the world or like getting too involved in it, but I wanted it to seem honest and truthful. And I know that I have always said I only wanted to write 3 books because I never wanted my characters to become caricatures. And I worried that that would happen. And I wanted to not explain things, but the series has always talked about historical events that have gone in their lives. And for whatever reason, here, it always felt good to look at seemingly inconsequential lines from the first 2 books and pull them together to create this one. And quite honestly, I am thrilled that it's finished. My mother got my grandmother on the phone yesterday, and I was talking to her, and I just said, I'm finishing writing the Doris book today, and then she can sod off. And I've continuously said it on here. It's not that I am fed up of writing Doris. It's just that this book has felt like it's taken its toll. It was something of a relief to finally finish it. But I won't lie to you. When I finished this book yesterday, I didn't tell my mother straight away. I printed it off. I sat there silently. And last night, whilst we were making tea, I just said to her, I finished Doris. Now what do I do? Because Doris has been the main character, the main story in my life that I've been working on for a decade. For my entire 20s, I have used this character to craft stories, learn how to tell stories. It's the first time I've ever completed a series, writing one. you can go and ask my writerly friends who know that I spent many years as a teenager starting series, creating books that would have serious potential and then never getting past the first book. I got so concerned with the writing of this book that I knew it was the final one, so I had to think, well, now you can't leave any loose ends. And I don't think I have. I think that this ties up the Doris series quite well. I am pleased to have it finished. And when I went to my mother and I said, what do I do now? It's because, and this is going to sound arrogant, however I say it, people have been asking for the next Doris book. I know that there is market, even if it's small, for the final 9 minutes of this video disappeared. And so, to go back and try and remember what I said, I know that there is market for the final Doris book. I try not to worry when I'm writing anyway, and just think I'm writing the book for me, not for you. And so I'm very selfish, and I write jokes that only I will get. And you can ask Dane about this as well. When he edited An Heir to Murder, there were various instances where he got in touch with me and said, oh, I don't get that. There was even a really mucky joke that didn't make it into the final edit because I was the only person who understood it out of the 3 people who read it before it got to Dane. That got removed. And sometimes that's just how it works. But it's always felt like this book is wanted. And anything else that I put out in future, I've got to get used to new characters and find them and get the same sort of relationship that I've had with Harold and Doris over the years, where I've understood every single thing about them. I know where they come from. Even though it might not be shown in the books, people could ask me questions about them, and people would sometimes, like, I remember when Brexit was happening and people were talking about that, and I was asked, well, how would Harold and Doris vote? And I could answer that, and I could talk about their political leanings because, you know, it does get mentioned in the book as well. But I know them, and they have been a huge part of my life throughout the last decade. And in future, I might not be writing about such older characters. I know that the comedy changes a bit in this book. There's humour I can't just take from Victoria Wood and Roy Clark. I probably won't be as funny in future books, which means that I won't get the laughs that I am used to getting, which just feel like support from the audience at times. And so when I finished this book and I went to my mother, what am I going to do? It was thinking, well, I know what I'm going to do next, but it's just this concern of, well, that might be what I do next, but what if it isn't well received? Or what if I can't find the voice? Or, you know, things like that. I know I released Alice, but that was different than Doris. Either way, it'll be a concern that disappears. It's just, I think it comes to every writer, is this sense of spending so much time with a set of characters and situations in your mind that you know inside out, and now you've got to move on. And it's the idea of moving on that is always a bit worrisome, but it's not something I have to worry about yet or concern myself with yet, because I still have to edit the book and get the book out there, and I'm not doing that for about a month because I always like to leave time so that I can go back to it with a bit of a fresh head on. It wasn't so nostalgic for what he's reading. And I mean, I never think my writing's the best thing with sliced bread, but you always run that risk of thinking, actually, that's all right, we don't need to do much there. Especially after working on a book for 19 months, you think, a bit of a break is what I need. But like I say, I do know what I'm writing next. Whether or not that is the next book that comes out, I don't know. I would like to release a standalone to say, look, I can write standalones. But I do think people also want to know what's going on with Alice. And, you know, I've got those books planned. The first arc of the Alice books is going to be 5 books. I know what's happening in each one and how the series storyline is going to progress, and individual storylines within each book will progress as well. Other than that, what have I been doing with my time? Well, because I've been writing, I haven't been reading Victorian literature. I started Dracula this week, both reading and listening to an audiobook, but you can find out about that in my Victober catch-up and updates, because really writing took over precedence of reading this week. I feel like now I can actually go and listen to some new music again, because I like to listen to music in an evening to relax, decompress, not decompose. So I've been listening to Sad Song by Gracie, which I think touches on a universal emotion by most people. I even talked about it last year or the year before when I talked about navigating towards sad songs, sometimes feeling a certain type of way, and she puts it in the song. What does she say? Needs someone to tell them how she's feeling. And yeah, it's just searching for some sort of empathy through song lyrics, and it made great sense, basically. Lana Del Rey has a new album out. I haven't really been a fan of Lana Del Rey's music since the first album came out. I like it, but there was a change with the song Young and Beautiful that I've never really understood, but it's not for me to understand. There are moments when I listen to it, such as I listened to the album Honeymoon whilst listening to the book whilst reading the book The Girls by Emma Cline, and that definitely heightened the experience because the album was a bit hazy and relaxing, and that's how this book felt. Adele has got a new song out. I'm mentioning that because it's Adele and people will be wondering about it. Well, it seems to have been successful. It's gone in at number 1. Never been the biggest Adele fan, and quite honestly, I'm fed up of hearing it on the radio because they play it about 50,000 times a day. No matter where you go, there she is, singing. And all I can remember was when she was joking in interviews about being 30 and getting a divorce and writing an album about it. Well, there you go. She also said she was going to kind of stop with these numerical albums. But I suppose if Daniel What's-His-Face O'Donnell can have an album called 60, she can have one called 30. But I would love it if more obscure artists ended up in the charts. You know, those ones that we don't know, because it's always the same people, and I feel like it's going to be the same people for a long time in future. But Alaska Thunderfuck does have a new song out, A Beautiful Night for a Breakdown. Felt a bit like a Eurovision song to me, not gonna lie. Both their recent songs have seemed a bit of a change from what they usually release, and I have appreciated it. Talking about drag queens, RuPaul's Drag Race UK, watched it on Thursday night, and I have to admit, I am not enjoying this series at all. There is something about it that just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Someone said about the terrible challenges this series and RuPaul not being happy with the latest challenge, and how were they supposed to make a bad challenge good. But it's just because when you're 20 series into a show that's been on loads of different platforms, your contestants are going to have an idea of what you're after, and they're going to try and fit that ideal. So not getting happy with them because it's something you've seen before. Well, you're getting something you've seen before because previously you found it funny, and so they're trying to win a challenge based on your likes and dislikes rather than their own sense of humour. Either way, not enjoying it. Only continuing to watch it because it's on a Thursday and my dad's got the soaps on in the background and I want to ignore them. But I have been rewatching Absolutely Fabulous. Sometimes that takes precedence, and I won't deny I have been skipping through these episodes because it's just not... It's missing something and I don't know what it is, but it's not for me currently. saying all that, you think that this time I've got off work now, this next week, where I'm going to be reading Victorian literature and some more modern books, you'd think that I'd be using that to catch up on some of the movies that I want to watch, since I think I've only watched 30 films this year and I wanted to watch 52. I have watched an untold amount of Hallmark Christmas movies with my mother recently. She's at home and that's all she's watching. There was one that I was watching that I actually thought, oh, this is okay, this is. And I was particularly happy because the man in this love story, there is a woman who he was falling for at the start of the film. And you'd expect in these films this woman who is about to lose her love interest to be angry with the other woman. And she just says to this man, I've got no anger towards you. We tried it, you don't like me. And says something along the lines of, you know, she's not going to wait around and go after somebody who's clearly not interested in her. I thought, finally, someone put it into words. What's the point in chasing after someone who's got no interest in you? Just beg her off and find somebody who's going to give you the attention that you deserve. I was thrilled. But yeah, should probably find some films to watch. I was going to take my mother to the cinema this week, but I've just found out the kids are on half term and I don't fancy going to the cinema when I know the kids are on half term because the place will be full. They'll be annoying me as much as they annoy me in any way. Any case, I don't know. Also, just remembered in that last video where I got cut off, I did say that if you have any questions to ask me about the final Doris book, then do feel free to ask them, whether it be the writing process, whether you've got story questions or any sort of questions. Any questions to do with Doris, well, just any questions in general, do let me know and I might finally do that Q&A that I've been talking about for a year. I feel sorry for Steve Partridge and Emily of Noval Novels who actually asked me questions about Doris Ahoy a year ago and I never got to them. So if you do ask me questions about Royally Doris in this video or anything to do with the Doris series, then I will shove those Doris Ahoy questions into that video as well and just do an amalgamation. But yeah, that's it. That's been my week. I finished writing Royally Doris, a series that I've been working on for 10 years. And, you know, I should also say thank you for all the messages of congratulations and support over this weekend, because they have been very much... I felt a lot of gratitude about that, because it felt like I was able to share my enthusiasm and people were sharing in my enthusiasm for completing this. And it's one of those where you kind of want to scream out into the world of an achievement, even though it's not really an achievement because I'm publishing it myself and it's not going to be out for a while and there's still editing to do. I just needed this small achievement acknowledging, and I thank you for that. Sarah of Hardcover Hearts did ask me how I was going to be celebrating, and the fact of the matter is that I don't know. How do you think I should celebrate? There you go. There's a question for you lot. How should I celebrate completing the final Doris book? Questions, answers, whatever, in the comments. If there's anything from this video which you'd like to discuss, please feel free to do that as well. I hope that you got something out of this video, even if it was sheer boredom. And until next time, that is all.